so we will continue with these Moises HaKabbalah, which contain enormous amount of Pnimius, but we're going to have to get it in different form. And the line begins, Ho'atzmi, this is 8 lines approximately, 8 lines from the top on page Chof Aleph.
Sorry.
There's a Tainug Ho'atzmi, the Rebbe mentions here, and in Tainug Ho'atzmi, in Tainug Ho'atzmi itself, there are 2 madrigas. This is the Tainug Ho'atzmi, the way it comes down into Chochma Bino. This is the Atik, it's Galus Atik in Chochma Bino, and there is the Atik, the way it is in itself.
The line began how?
The line begins with what Atzmi, Ho'atzmi.
Atik is after the Tzimtzum.
Yeah. Atik, the cloud refers to the Atik Kesef of Atzilus. Since that we're going through this and it's taking us some time, not to remain, so to speak, empty-handed, we're going to talk a little bit about Tainug Ho'atzmi and the of Tainug Shebo B'Murgash and Tainug She'eino B'Murgash. Well, that's my life to lower it a little bit. Excuse me.
Take
This one is better.
take one of the hard copies. One of the original copies.
As mentioned many times, the term etzem to us is a totally elusive term. There is not an etzem quality within moral parameters. In world, everything in world, now by definition, world is past, present, and future. And then there is Milo, Mato, and there's a space that is also identified by dimensions, which means it is a structured, an assembly of different parts, which is not Atzmi. Atzmi means an essential single truth. It's meant Atzmi. That has its own essential reality. It's meant Atzmi. We are always illustrating the concept of Atzmi within our world by calling attention to the ruchnius, the life element that manifests itself through the worldly means. As for example, you may recall, this was not that long ago, when we talked about Hakora, recognition, and we said then that that looking at a person and you recognize the person, this recognition identifies and relates not to the facial form of the person, but to the essential chayas of the person. That which you see in a person, say, this is the person. This is one point in sight that defies being identified by any other function, by any other sense. Normally we say that which you see you can also touch, feel. But that's not true really. That the ultimate function and quality of sight is that it sees the essential element, way beyond the surface, way beyond the form.
Wait, so this is like a grasp of essence, a glimpse of essence.
This is a glimpse of the concept of essence. You see the person, you say, this is him. And you ask, okay, what makes you say it's him? And the answer is, it's just him. It's not his nose size, it's not his ear size, it's not his eye size, it's not his eye color for that matter. Because there are millions of people with the same eye color. But this is him. That point that this is him refers to an essential element. And it refers to an essential element to such a degree that we know the statement that Ayin De'esayim Shovis, that no two people have the same Deya. That distinction in Deya, this is what you see when you identify the person. Essentially, what you identify is his chayus. What is his life about? What is his enthusiasm about? That you see in sight. This is an essential element in the person. Although again, this is not the essence, because again, you're saying, what is he living about? That means that there is something that there's an expression involved, but in the worldly context, relative to everything else, this is like an essential thing.
Even though it changes.
What changes?
What a person lives, like about tshuva, for example, is what he lives for, let's say, before and after, is two different things.
No, this is not what we're referring to. It's the same personality. The fact that he identified more correctly and so forth what is meaningful to him does not mean that he has changed personality. It means that he has identified more correctly with the truth, with his own truth. But the Chaya, the person, is the same person.
And Deus Shava is on the same level as Chayas?
The Deus is not on the same level, but the Deus reflects his Chayas. Why in the same Shava is because it reflects the Chayas in a different way. Actually, there is a difference in every Nisham also. So now this essential element, which cannot be captured, cannot be defined. We mentioned lately a lot the union of Kol Dover Reitze B'Kiyumah. Everything wants to be what it is. Every individual human being wants to be what he is. Not because he is, this gives him that he is smarter than the next guy, or more beautiful than the next guy, or anything else. He just relates to what he is. This is also an essential element. This essential element is the godly spark within him. This is why he really relates to it and he really appreciates it, because that has a real truth within it. It's an essential element. Now, this essential element, as I said, we can't really define it and correlate it to any functionality. And this essential element represents and carries its own sense of oinek. This is called taina goatz. There is not an external cause for the oinek. This is a self-contained oinek, because it has a godly truth in itself. This is the taina goatz. The reason that kol davar yetzer b'kiyumoy wants to be what it is because there is a special oinek that comes out from this unique truth as to what he is. Okay. And he says that within that taina goatzmi there are two levels. There's a taina goatzmi shebo b'murgosh, which actually can be sensed, and then there is a deeper inyan, she'ein bo b'margosh, that cannot be sensed at all. Coming back to our example of this, kol davar yetzer b'kiyumoy, for example. So he senses something about this. He has a special quality, and then there is something which is beyond being sensed. And it still represents his essential quality. There is no functional element with this, associated with this. This is strictly the godly truth in it. Okay. I said, just to have something to hold on to. Hine, Beis Aliyah, Beis Aliyah Zoliyosit. These are the two aliyahs, the two elevations that are given in the osim, in the future. The aliyah habeis, who by the second level is Mashe Olam Habo Ein Bo Achilu Ushtiya. That in Olam Habo, the higher level is that Ein Bo Achilu Ushtiya. There is not, in Olam Habo, there is not the phenomenon of eating and drinking. Now when the Gemara says in Olam Habo there is no Achilu Ushtiya, that has a profound implication. It's not clearly there is no eating and drinking in Olam Habo. What is the inference that there is no eating and drinking?
Olam Haba is the world of neshamas?
Yeah. Olam Haba. It depends according to Rambam, but in any case, it's Olam Haba. It's the world that is beyond the limited world that we are experiencing. So what? Ein by achilu ushtiya. There is no achilu ushtiya, no eating and drinking. What is the inference there? This is oinag ho'atzmi habilti murgosh. This is where there is oinag ho'atzmi habilti murgosh. Achilu ushtiya is an inference to some kind of an experience, some kind of oinag. In eating and drinking, there is an element of oinag. And they say ein by achilu ushtiya means that this is beyond any kind of oinag. The oineg habilti murgosh. V'zehu. And therefore, this is what we discussed this morning, and now we come to conclusion. There is Shabbos or the Yoimo. There is Shabbos. There is three levels in Shabbos. The Shabbos of the evening, Friday night. Then there's Shabbos, the Yoimo, Shabbos of the day, the first Suda of Shabbos of the day, and then there's the third Suda. Here, Shabbos of the Yoimo, Seud Shniya, the second Suda of the Shabbos. Oh, Bechinas Go Atzmi, Kmeisha Baba Murgash B'Chochma Bina. This is the Oila Go Atzmi at the level where it comes with Murgash, because this is the Oila Go Atzmi as it is expressed in Chochma Bina. Chochma Bina has an element of Murgash, an element of awareness, of sensitivity, of sensing it. That's what Chochma Bina. Then there is the Gan that is the Leil Shabbat at night, Friday night. This is the lower level. This is the Gan that comes after the Yom Choil. It's the rest after labor. And then there is the day of Shabbat. This is the Oinek. But in that itself, there is two levels. There's a level of Chochmo Bina, which is Oinek Goatz Mishababa Murgash in Chochmo Bina. Avos Uda Shlishi is Bemincha de Shabbos, but the third Suda in Mincha of Shabbos. O Giloi Bechinas Pnimis HaKeser Mamash. This is where the Pnimis HaKeser itself, not as it expresses itself in Chochma Bina, but directly Keser Pnimis HaKeser itself, Bechinas Ho'ena Go'atzmi Habilti Murgosh. Gam B'Chochma Bina. This is the Ho'ena Go'atzmi that even it doesn't even express itself in Chochma Bina. Again, as I said, that not to leave, so to speak, empty-handed. I want to discuss a little bit the Inyan of Oyna Go'atzmi that is sensed in Chochma Bina. This is something which we are discussing quite often. The principle that Chochma and Bina, we call it, we say, the Seichel. This is Seichel, this is something that we are aware of. This is something that makes sense. It's something that we argue out and we explain with all kinds of different approaches. And in Olam HaChitzoni, in the outside world, the whole union of Seichel and reasoning has been stripped totally of any meaning, of any oinig, of any life element, of any neshama element. And to the extent that over there they have reached the conclusion that any seichel that has a neshama element, that is not the truth. The truth is if the seichel is totally stripped of any neshama element. This is why their seichel is completely based on proofs, on the external proofs. Nothing. There is not a concept. No neshama conceptualization involved at all. There is no making sense of it. No bringing out what is this all about. This is what chitzoni is. The chitzoni is really the Iyar HaSeichel taken completely out of context, because the Iyar of Seichel is really, as we're saying over here, Seichel actually carries the neshama with it. The whole value, the whole mile of Seichel over midos is as we discuss it all the time, that Seichel, in Chochmah particularly, because of the beetle of Seichel. And what is the beetle of Seichel? The beetle of Seichel is the principle of beetle of Seichel is that Seichel is bottled to the truth. Here is where the divergence between the way we interpret Seichel and the way the Chochmah Yetzenis interpret Seichel. Our Seichel is based on a principle that there's a first being. So there is a source where this Seichel is coming from. There's a first being. And this primary truth of the first being, that because Seichel, the beetle of Seichel, it is bottled to the extent that it relates to this primary being. And this is the truth that shines to this person, to the Seichel. But Chochmah Chitzonis has done, and what their approach is that the Seichel itself creates the whole reality. There is not a primary being. The Seichel itself creates the whole reality, and that's why it becomes a totally meaningless Seichel, because it is not expressing a primary truth, it's expressing its own experience. What is Seichel? What is Seichel from their perspective? If you hit your hand on the top and it hurts, that's a Seichelic reality because it hurts. This is on par of the dog being hit on the head with the stick, and the dog says, "Oh, it hurts." It's exactly the same level of knowledge, except a human being can go more intricately. But essentially, the primary knowledge is exactly the same. What you experience on the physical level, that is the reality. But in the true Seichel is that the Seichel, because Seichel has beetle, and the beetle of Seichel is not that there is nothing, the beetle of Seichel that is bottled to the reality, to the primary reality. And this is why the primary reality, the Rotzen and Oynek, can reveal itself in Seichel. Because Seichel is, Chochmah Bina is bottled to that truth. And this is why you're saying that the Oynek, there is the Oynek from Kesef, Oynek from Atik, reflects itself in Chochmah Bina. This is the true Pneumistic understanding. The real Seichel Odom, the real mile of Seichel Odom is that it reflects the truth of the Neshama. Because of its quality of beetle, it senses what the Neshama truth is. Midas is where it becomes a Metzias already on the express level. But the Seichel, the Chochmah Bina, that does not have its own presence. It's completely dedicated, completely sensitive to what the Neshama, the truth of the Neshama is. This is the Oynek as it is Nimshech in Chochmah Bina. And then there is a higher level that is represented by the third Suda of Shabbos, which is the Oynek HaNefesh itself, the Oynek of Atik itself.
This is how the neshama relates to the seichel, to the Talmud.
Welcome to IDT Connect. Welcome to. At the tone, please record your name followed by the pound key.
Paltiel.
Thank you. You are participant number 5.
I know when I got disconnected, right?
Oh, okay, you're back, Rabbi Paltiel.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Most panemius way that the neshama relates to seichel is through timing.
Right.
Rotzum
The
related
way,
to
the
different
way,
levels.
the way we normally associate seichel with the nefesh is that chokhmah this is where the tainuk itself is sensed, and the rotzin is in bina. That is really to go and identify these things. I don't think we should go into this. But this is essentially the oinig and rotzin. The significance of seichel, chokhmah and bina, is the fact that the oinig and rotzin ha-nefesh is sensed over there, and this is what the real significance. Because there you have the real truth of the nefesh, the real amiti, godly truth. This is why, since we already got into it, I just want to interject to the final note. The Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that chokhmah chitzenis is metame as Chabad, the metame the Chabad to the nefesh. Chokhmah chitzenis bring an impurity to Chabad of the nefesh. Why? Because chokhmah chitzenis draws the koiches of Chabad, of Chokhmah Bina, into beetle to worldliness, instead of beetle to alakus, beetle into worldliness. The essential question is, what is the primary reality? Primary reality in Kedusha is there is a first being, Mamsik Olimtz. The primary reality in Klipa is the tangible. So if one delves into that as the reality, so his seichel becomes really Tama means that he can hardly relate to a seichel de kedusha. It becomes a whole cleansing process. But fortunately, no matter how much Chokhmah Chitzenis is being pumped into an individual, because he has a neshama, he always takes it at arm's length. He doesn't really believe in it. Says something is not right. Something doesn't jive. And this is how he remains connected to the chokhmah, to the pure chokhmah, and eventually he is able to venture out of it.
Well, we discussed the other day the highest there is in Shuv, ultimate level of it, because Oinig there is in Shuv because of that's the Rotzon being fulfilled. Is this Oinig Shebo B'Murgesh?
Yeah, in Shuv, it's always on the mortgage. Because it's in Shuv, it's coming back and back into the cheeks. Yeah. All right. So this is the Oina Go'atzmi that is not Murgesh. Gam Chokhmah Bina it's not sense even Chokhmah Bina. So we are just below the middle of the top section on page Chofalav. The line begins Gam B'Chokhmah Bina. Zel Gam Kein. This too will be used as a clarity in the union from Malchia, Zichroines, and Shofros. On Rosh Hashanah we have three levels: Malchia, Zichroines, and Shofros. Malchia is Zichroines. These two is Bechinas Gan v'Noha. These are the two levels of Gan. Bosi Legani. This is on Shabbat. This is like the Suda of Shabbos Friday night. Nohor, and the river that draws from Bina. Sheheim Beis Suda the Shabbos. Sheifreis And then the third level is bechinas Eiden Mamash, Besuda Shlishis. This is the Eiden itself. Besuda Shlishis is the Shabbos. Behu inyan Zocher v'Shomer. Kmei shezocher v'Shomer b'dibor echot nemru. Zocher v'Shomer, there is in the Aseret HaDibros, you know, the Aseret HaDibros mentions Shabbos, and in the first, it says Zocher Esim Shabbos, and the second says Shomer. So that's when we have Zocher v'Shomer. So Zocher v'Shomer, these are the two madrigas in Shabbos. But then there is a third madriga. Third madriga is that Zocher v'Shomer b'dibur echad namru. That actually Zocher v'Shomer are one and the same dibur. And dibur echad, that Hashem produced these two inyanim in the same utterance. Dibur echad namru. V'nimtza de b'Shabbos yesh kol ha'amshoches ha'nimshochem al dei ha'shefer. Oh. Now, according to this, our original question was, how were the Chachamim able to bypass the mitzvah of Shefer of some Shabbos? Shefer is such a high element. The answer is that on Shabbos we have all the inyanim of Rosh Hashanah, including the inyan of Shefer, which is the inyan of Eiden Mamash, which is the Suda Shlishis of Shabbos. This is why Yontav Shel Rosh Hashanah ain't taking. If it comes out on Shabbos, we don't blow Shefer. She'ein tzarich os kiyas Shefer, because then on Shabbos you don't need kiyas Shefer. The fish hakol nimshach alidei mitzvah Shabbos. When Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos, all the inyanim of Rosh Hashanah, including the Shefer's element, which is the Eiden itself, is also into the mitzvah Shabbos. In Kain, ein zeh shemevatlin kiyas Shefer. Therefore, the whole question that Chachamim mevatel kiyas Shefer, they nullified kiyas Shefer on Shabbos, was not nullification. Kiyim she'oz ein tzoret kiyas Shefer. It is the fact that you don't need kiyas Shefer. Yesh in Shefer hu, being that the inyan of Shefer is laham shebechinas nohar yeitzei, to be mamshech the nohar that comes out from Eida. Bechinas is galus atik shebebino. That the Atik of Bina should come into Ezachayim, Bechinas Gan, Bechlal, Bechinas Zo, Malchus, Vagam Shochas Bechinas Eidem Ikedem. And also the name from Shefer is that the Mamshech, the Eidem Ikedem, this is the Oinek Sheinem Murgosh, Sheyoye Bezo, Malchus, or Beshabos, but on Shabbos, HaKoy Nimshech Meyatzmei, everything is nimshach by itself without the shefer. Lochein on the shorosh and chal b'Shabbos ain't taking. Huh? Yeah. Okay, so that is sort of the conclusion of that minor.
You answered a lot of the questions that you brought up in the first minor, right?
Yeah. Well, that's This is this one. Refresh it a little bit. So yes, the Shabbos Shabbosim. This is Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is Shabbos Shabbosim, the highest inyan of Shabbos. Ve'inisem, and therefore you should not, you should inflict, you should have infliction, you should not eat. And the question is, where is the correlationship? If it's Shabbos, on the contrary, Shabbos is a mitzvah to be ma'anek Shabbos, not ve'inisem. Now we can understand the relationship. V'hine yodua. Because it is known that everything that we arouse and ultimately be mamshich on Rosh Hashanah, Iker HaHamshocha hu b'yem HaKippurim. The principle, the Hamshocha, ultimately actually is factualized on Yom Kippur. Zer Shomer Hazal. And this is what the Chazal say, Haslicho mufkedes etzlecho. The slicho, the forgiveness, mufkedes, is safeguarded by you, Rosh Hashanah ad Yom Kippurim, from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. The Oz, who slichas avenes, and Yom Kippur, there is a complete wipe away of avenes. Lefi she'oz nimshach omeir gilu b'chines pnimis hakesed. Because on Yom Kippur is nimshach, the pnimis hakesed itself. Meisha Kosov, and the Pasuk says, Onoichi, Umecha Pshoecha. That what is Moicha Pshoecha? Onoichi. The Madrig of Onoichi. Onoichi is higher than Chochma Bina. This is High Kesef. V'zehu ki be'onon eiroem. That on Kippur it says be'onon eiroem. I will appear be'onon in the cloud. What is the honor? The Anan Hakteres, the honor of dictators who Inyan had Shuba. This represents Shuba. Bezeh Eiroa Be'atzmuse. That through the Shuba, Eiroa, I will be seen Be'atzmuse, the Hashem, the Atzmus itself, Gilu B'chinas Atzmus itself. Bezeh Shema Kippurim Mika Shabbos Shabbosin. This is what Yom Kippur is called Shabbos Shabbosin. The Shabbos of Shabbos. Which means Shabbos is Shabbos. The Shabbos of Shabbos. The Shabbos Bichlal, or Bechinas HaChochma Kaneh. Shabbos in general is the Chochma element. Who Bechinas Tango Atzmi, Kmeshut Mo B'Chochma. It's Chochma because in Chochma is reflected Tango Atzmi, the way Tango Atzmi is reflected in Chochma. This is Shabbos. Omnon Shabbos is Shel Shabbos. But when you talk about the Shabbos within Shabbos, who bechinas Tanug Atzmi Mamosh. This is the Tanug Atzmi, not as it expresses itself in Chochma, but Tanug Atzmi the way it is in itself. She'ene bo b'Chochma Bino, which is not expressing, cannot be captured even in Chochma Bino, which is bechinas Pnimis HaKeser Mamosh. The Pnimis HaKeser that cannot be captured in anything, not even in Chochma Bino. Moikein b'Shabbos. Similarly in Shabbos, Amshocha Zu. This Amshocha of Shabbos Shabbosin is b'mincha de Shabbos. Is a mincha Shabbos. The Alkein b'Suda Shlishis. This is why in the third meal of Shabbos, Nemar Hayoim Loi. Okay, we started talking this morning about Hayoim, the 3 times Hayoim. The 3 times Ayin that are mentioned in association with eating the man on Shabbos. So the third one refers to the Shlishis after Mincha, and by that Hayoim it says Hayoim Loi Simtzu, Hayoim Loi, today not, which means from this there is an implication that in this day Loi there is no eating. Hayoim Loi, which is Bechinas Oineg HaBilti Murgash. Which is the oinig that is built in Murgash, does not come in a form of any kind of experience, any kind of sensitivity. Canal. Hu inyan oil Shabbos b'Shabbat, like Mishakos v'Makimach. Lochen Yom Kippurim shu giloi bechinas pnimis hakeser nikra Shabbos Shabbos. Yom Kippur, in which the pnimis hakeser is in full expression, it's called Shabbos Shabbos, in the Shabbos of Shabbos. Now we understand the posuk that because Yom Kippur is Shabbos Shabbosin, this is why there is in different Nisim is Nafshesechem, that you do not give any kind of satisfaction to the nefesh. Because in Kippur there is a union of Oinag Atzmi, the essential Oinag Mamash, not as it expresses itself in anything, not even in Chochmah Bina, in the way it is in its very self, in the Pnimis, Al Kain, Ein Tzorich, Liyas, Achilu Shtir. That's why there is no need for Achilu Shtir. Shezehu Irida Chas V'Sholom. When Achilu Shtir is a descent for the lowering of the Oinag Atzmi. This is when the Oinag Atzmi is in itself. And that is reflecting the second level of elevation of the Osid, that the Osid Lovid, the higher level of Habo is Ein B'Achil, which means it is Oineg without any sensing of it, beyond sense. Nagam, the Shabbos means Oliyan Goy, even though on Shabbos it's on the contrary. It's a mitzvah to experience it in Oineg. Zeo b'bchinas chochma bina dich l'reim ksir. This mitzvah li'angoi is in the chochma bina, because in chochma bina there is an experience of Oineg. The ich l'reim ksir. Reim means, as we said before, Reim, this refers to Chochmah Bina. And Reim, Ichlu, they do eat. Now, there is an experience of Oineg. Aval Be'asrei, but in the place of the Malchus itself, or the Keser, Lo Yuchel Meichel, there it's not even appropriate to eat. Lochem B'Shabbos Gamkein, the B'chinas Shabbos Shel Shabbos. This is why on Shabbos too, in the Bechina of Shabbos Shel Shabbos, in the highest level of Shabbos, the Shabbos within Shabbos, which is the high of B'micha Shabbos, B'micha Shabbos, this is the Shabbos within Shabbos, Nemar Hayom Loi. There it says Hayom Loi, that this is not the time for eating. This is why in Kippur is not Shayach the Inyan from Achilu Shti. All right, let's finish. Okay, move on. And thus it's understood Shaychus Hoinyonim Zelozeh. The connection between these two Inyonim, it says Shabbos Shabbos, in Kippur is Shabbos Shabbos, the Shabbos of Shabbos, and B'yinisim Savseichem, and you should therefore deprive yourself. And how these two things are actually interdependent. The Bechina Shabbos Shabbos and Davka. That particularly, in fact, because it's Shabbos Shabbos and Shabbos of Shabbos, that's why Tzorech Liyis V'Yinisim. That's why it has to be deprivation, not Achilu Shti, because this is higher than Achilu Shti. Zeo Shabbos Shabbos and Hulachem. And now, to summarize the whole explanation of this passage, Shabbos Shabbos and Hulachem is the Shabbos of Shabbos. The Yom Kippurim B'chinas Shabbos Shabbos and Davka. Yom Kippur is the higher level of Shabbos. It's a Shabbos within Shabbos. Gila B'chinas Pnimis HaKeser Mamash. When there's Pnimis HaKeser Mamash, not the way it expresses itself in Chochmah Bina, but the way it is in itself. Ve'alkei v'yinisim Savseichem. And this is why there is a mitzvah of v'yinisim Savseichem, the Be'asrei Lav Urchel Meichel, because in the very place of the Keser, the place of the Melech, Lav Urchel Meichel, that's not a place for eating at all. Shezeo Gila B'chinas Tanago Atzma Bilti Murgo. Now we who have a regular Fabrengen on time of Shuddis, and we make sure and we do wash and we eat. So that seems to be kind of incongruous with what we just now learned. So I just want to say that our excuse is that by this Fabrengen is actually in place of the Fabrengen that should have been before after the first after Shachis, but because we don't have an opportunity, so we have bring that. And then also we don't sit and eat, we just watch and we have a kazayis, and then we sing and we talk. It's not an eating. It's not celebrating eating. It's celebrating. The reason we wash is so that we should be able to say l'chaim and verbring. The Tara l'chaim we can verbring. And since the shkia comes in, so that's our excuse for the record.
For a way to summarize, like the last couple of pages, what are we supposed to take out of it? What are the main things?
The principle that was explained in the last couple of pages is really a phenomenal, in particular the way it was presented and all that. We discussed it, as much as possible, to understand the principle of Eir Elyon. The Gili Amsochas Eir Elyon, that despite the fact that, like we say, Ein the Yisayim Shovis, and we are in the world, and we have our Deya on the basis of who we are in the world, that does not preclude, does not limit us to be associating exclusively with our worldly definition. There is within that general structure. There is also the union of Hamshach of Eir Elyon, Hamshach of Eir Atzmi, of Atzmus Ein Sof. This is what's called the Kavonos of Atzmus, as we discussed many times. That the Kavonos of Atzmus.
You said within that is found within what?
The thing at whatever level, the actual experience of a person's of his seichel and midas and whatever his das is, at whatever level it is, there is always this sense that there is a kavona elyena, and this kavona relates him to that which is completely beyond world, to atzmus. As we explained, that the union from kavonos of atzmus is not the union from rotzon of atzmus. Kavonos of atzmus, this is the actual presence of the atzmus. And when one recognizes, as we discussed in this Maimon quite extensively, that like we just now discussed the union of how the awareness, our own awareness of the world and everything that we understand about the world. So if the awareness were to be attributed to our experience, then our differences would be permanent, could not be bridged. But due to the fact that the real presence is not our experience, the real presence is the koyach ha'atzmus. Like we said, that really, what is the Metzias of the world, and in our own recognition, and you said, what is the Metzias of the world? Is the Motzer Rishon Mamsik Olim. Everything is based on the Motzer Rishon. And the reason everything is there is because he said it should be there. Not because we are there, we realize it, we recognize it through our experience. When we come to real realization, this is the Amshochas Elyon, that it is because he wants it to be, not because, and he wants us to be aware of it, not because we discover it. Then there is the Amshochas Elyon that illuminates and is able to unite all different aspects. This is a phenomenal Indian affair. Like you said, we summarize the Maimon, might as well bring it out and let us again in a factual and tangible manner. First, we use the moshel, the analogy, and then we'll go to the real thing. If you enter in a person's home, like you enter into his home, a chair is a chair, a table is a table, a clock is a clock, and everything else, everything has its own function. Everything has its own function. They're all different things. There's one overall reality in all of these things. One single reality. This is a human home. You take away the chairs, what's missing? It's not human. Take away the table, it's not human. Take away the clock, it's not human. In other words, even though they all have different functionalities, the table you're missing this, with the chairs you're missing this, with the clock you're missing this, but those things that you're missing, so to speak, this is not the functional element that they contribute, is not what brought them together into this room. If you go to that level, to the essential reality of it, then they're all representing the same thing. I want to be a clock, I want to be a chair. What's the difference? You're all presenting the very same thing. So the AyinBase same service completely dissipates because it's not based on your day; it's based on the truth that you're representing. This is in the Moshel, and in the Nimshal it's exactly the same thing.
In the last couple of, do not finish.
No, go ahead.
In the last couple of pages, talking about all these different madrigas and Ayin and Yotzei Ayin, these are all different or Elyon basically on a higher, this or on a higher and higher level. Is this the idea that he's bringing out?
Essentially, well, actually, as I said, this. The last couple of pages is to bring this into conclusion based on the beginning of the Smiler of the Sinin of the Cloud, the whole Hemshech, the Inyan of Yom Kippur and Dom Bal Shefer and Rosh Hashanah and so forth. This is kind of bringing all of these things together, but. This exposes how the whole explanation of the Maimon, how that explains these psukim. How did we get into talking about this higher Oyer Elyon? Basically, we base it on the Posuk, but the purpose of it is to explain the Oyer Elyon, not to explain the Posuk.
Would it be helpful? Would it be a useful exercise to say, okay, these are the questions and these are the answers, and kind of get them clear, or that's not the point?
that is really not the point. It's very unusual the way this in this minor so many such a long, this in conclusion, because those Amorim are hardly ever quoting anything. It's all Hasidus. All right. I'd like to start the next mimer just to start it, not to just have a.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes.
Yeah, so before you go on, so in all of this latter portion of the, Kabbalah ICS and this last phase of the discussion, you're saying the sort of central point to take out of this is the idea of Ayin. That runs through all of this?
Right. That is essentially this Inyan, to show how what is the Oyer Elyon. The Oyer Elyon comes at three different levels: the way it is in Zohar, the way it is in Chochmah Bina, and the way it is in its own place. And the way it is in its own place, there's absolutely no experience, no cognizance at all.
And we relate to this concretely through the idea of kavanah.
Right. As we discussed many times, that kavanah Eliyena, kavanah, as I said, is superior to rotzen. Rotzen has an expression. Kavanah is the presence of the etzem itself.
Not the etzem, but the presence of the etzem.
Right.
That's as close as we ever get to etzem.
Right. This is the kavanah, is the presence of the etzem in our midst.
So in Aveda, this goes back to what the discussion was of Ratz V'Shuv?
Yeah.
The bittul to the Kavana Elyena?
Mm-hmm.
Does this have any role? I mean, assuming that we're not necessarily always at the level of having gone through all of these different cycles of Ratz V'Shuv, till we finally come to the stage of bittul to the Kavana Elyena, does this have any practical meaning for us?
The Kavana Elyena, whether you recognize it in terms of bittul or you don't recognize the Kavana Elyena, this is what gives reality to everything.
So whether or not
let's put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned all the time that you can get a cut in your finger and you know it's going to heal because there is life in the finger. Now this life is not a standalone spirit. This life element fits into the reality of the world. How does it fit in the reality of the world? The world is a physical world? No. The world, the physical world, that's the chitzenis. There's some kind of a supreme presence in the world that says, like we said, the world is not possible that it should be destroyed. Why? Because there's supreme presence, there's supreme truth in it, there's a godly kavanah in it. This is the basis, this is the source of all chayes. This is ultimately the source of all chayes. Chayus, even though chayus is present in every individual person, but it is not, it does not function independently. Because there is chayus, there is the overall godly reality. This is why there is chayus. In an individual. Because there is chayus in the whole world, there is chayus in the individual. And the chayus in the whole world is because there is that ultimate godly reality present. That's why it says, "B'oi pnei melech chayim." In the light of pnei melech, of the face of the king, this is where the chayim is.
So you don't have to be consciously bottled to that Iyar Elyon to have that Iyar affect you.
Right. You are. That's right. You. Okay. It's correct to say that, but that does not really capture the principle.
What does it miss?
Well, no, it's not you miss. This is not something that you can really summarize in a word. You have to see it in a much broader context. The fact is that, I mentioned many times the concept of the experience of a claustrophobic. What's the suffering claustrophobic? Nobody can tolerate close to it, except the phobia is the one who. What's the claustrophobia? The phobia is not that he is exclusive, that he cannot tolerate clustering and somebody else can tolerate. Nobody can cluster it. A human being cannot live in clustering. A human being has to relate to the entire reality. The phobia is the person cannot project that even though there is walls around him, but I'm not really clustered in the wall. I'm really relate to that which is beyond the walls. The person who has got this weakness is because he can't relate beyond the walls. The walls kind of close to him. But the human being, by nature, by the life, is that which breaks through all barriers. And if he's barred, he cannot live. And this is why in prison is the biggest suffering. Because no matter how much you say, he's still cloistered in the sense that he is not really relating to the infinite reality.
That's the kavanah elyon.
That's the kavanah elyon. That's the presence of the real truth of the answer.
You explained earlier about love of Murgash. Is there a way to sum that up again?
What's again?
Love of Murgash. This
right.
Is Murgash.
Well, the point which I said, etzem is something which is not within our within worldly parameters. Okay. Because world is within Zman and Mokin and so forth. But we as human beings, with our intelligence and so forth, we can see beyond the limits of the world. We can see beyond. We can see some kind of a real, present, real truth. And this real presence and real truth, let's put it in very simple terms. Very simple terms. You wake up in the morning. I have something very interesting to do today. Get up and run. I have something really interesting to do. Whether it is in business or so, I'm really expecting these things. Okay? This is where the life element is mamash within worldly parameters. Got something to do. I have something to go, and it's interesting and it's challenging. And now I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get whatever it is.
People to meet.
Huh?
People to meet, things to do.
Yeah, all kinds of different things. Right? Maybe I'm expecting a good hot mikveh also. Maybe that's an enticement.
Once a month that works.
Huh?
Once a month that works.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. Is that the limit of human life experience? In the worldly context, that's the way it's viewed. That there's something interesting to do. But we all understand, especially we having been exposed to the Chassidus and Al-Zachar, understanding the Nefesh, understanding the Chabad, we know that that is not what the human being stands for. And if a human being were to have, this is an interesting phenomenon, right? Day in, day out, the same interesting, quote unquote, activity, he'd be bored stiff. Even if the breakfast is every day the same breakfast, he can no longer eat it. There has to be some change. So in other words, if we were to say that the human life can be understood within worldly parameters, within his worldly experience, then it will be constantly lacking. There is therefore something, a level in our human experience or human life element that supersedes all the worldly experiences. It is true that we function at the level of seichel and midas, which is within a worldly context, and therefore we have to know what we're doing and so forth. That's only to satisfy the seichel and midas level. But the essential life element goes beyond that. Shaloi biyah. There is what's called an essential level of oimek. The very reality of itself is sufficient to keep you going indefinitely. In that very reality, okay, here's the important point that may put things in perspective. Even if you get up in the morning and says, "Oh, I have this to do, and it's so interesting." Deep down in our intelligence, in our intellect, it is true that this is enticing, this is challenging, this is interesting. But the reason that itself has a real enticement is because we know, we sense that all of these things have a greater truth behind them. In other words, if this was all it is, just this particular experience, then it would not have any value. Because there's a greater truth behind them, so this becomes interesting. And here is a simple illustration, okay? Here's a simple illustration. I'm sorry to go to this stupidity, but it still illustrates the point. Okay? We all realize that the dog walkers over there in the park, day in day out, go out and walk their dogs, and this is their life. You know, like I told you, what I'm observing over there, it boggles the mind. Okay, this kid does not give a human satisfaction, even though every day is a different challenge. It's not the challenge that gives you satisfaction. It's because there is meaning behind it. And if it's meaningless, no matter what you accomplish, it's meaningless. And that's an extreme example, but no matter what it is.
So there's meaning even behind the dog walking.
Yeah, I know this.
You don't know what it is.
I'm saying, to the human being, in reality, is the meaning behind it. That's what the meaning behind it is true that you have different details and different things that you do. But the real impetus that goes through it is the meaning behind it, the truth behind it, not the actual activity. That truth behind it, this is all the way going up higher and higher and higher. This ultimately it is the kabbalas or atzmos. It is the fact that there is an essential truth behind all of this. This is what gives meaning and enticement to all our activities, ultimately.
The morgosh is when that meaning is dressed in some kind of parameters that you can relate to. That's the morgosh aspect.
Not the morgosh aspect.
The low morgosh.
That's even lower than morgosh. Morgosh is, this we talk about, like atzmi, morgosh, and this is not only atzmi at all. This is altogether in common. This is all within worldly parameters.
So you were explaining before, even within Einig, was Norgesh and the...
That's right. That's within Einig. But this is this realm. I'm talking about now the different things that different human activities. It's not in Einig at all. This is in worldly parameters.
That's just to show the difference between the Morgesh and Love Morgesh?
That no. This I brought on to show that even when we are involved in our worldly activities, deep down, what gives it sense, what gives it impetus, is not that activity itself.
I'm just asking, what in the Maimer, like what is it? Like I asked about the Love and Morgosh. How does it relate to what? Because you're explaining, you're answering my question about Morgosh. No.
Okay. Start all over again.
No. You don't have to start all over again. I'm just trying to correlate what you're explaining to.
What I'm explaining is that this Iyar, this oil Elyon, is that it's participating in our lives all the time, even when we are involved in trivialities.
So when you give the example of the dog walker, that's not to say that there isn't another alien over there also.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. There, I don't know. That's total stupidity. I'm sorry.
But on the other hand, the point is that just because you're involved in seichel, this doesn't mean there's more or alien than when you're involved in buying groceries for the home.
That's right. No. Anything that the person does, when a person goes to buy groceries for the home, what gives him the ability to do that is because there is some real significance in the home. It is, to that extent, this is true, that it is not merely because I'm going to buy groceries, you won't be hungry. So what's in not being hungry? There is always this deeper element. This is what distinguishes between human being and an animal habit. A human being, everything is through his intellect. Intellect is bottled to the truth. It has to be some kind of a true significance to it.
But there could be such a thing as a seichel that's essentially equivalent to dog walking. Is that all? I mean, or maybe we wouldn't call it seichel.
Seichel, if it is seichel, it has some relationship to this. So that's a seichel. That's what it said. Seichel, primarily seichel has a beetle, and what is it bottled to? It's bottled to some kind of a reality. No, dog walking is devoid of any seichel.
And the seichel of the scientists?
The seichel of scientists, they have rejected seichel consciously.
So that's worse than dog walking.
Yeah. I don't know, I'll tell you. I don't know. Everybody is talking about that the human being evolved from monkeys, and everybody says, that is the truth, that is the truth. I don't know that really there's one human being that really believes it. And he gets up in the morning refreshed from his sleep. I can't even imagine that can happen.
Remember
Some people are very comfortable with being a monkey.
What?
Some people are very comfortable with being a monkey.
They're comfortable when they have their times. But when they're not involved in times, just as a human being, they could not be comfortable. I can't even project. It releases them of any kind of restraints and so on, and ultimately we see that the world is turning around and people, they can't stand themselves. And Ramon Islam, people take their lives, having everything in front of them. They end their lives. Because who wants to live like a monkey?
Talking about remember a couple of days ago you made the distinction between, based on the beginning of the Sharif of the Muna, where the Alter quotes a word from Baal Shem Tov, He said there are two ways how to look at it,
Right.
the world,
Right.
how to appreciate highest in the world.
Right.
So
Wanna know what I said?
That's right. I do know. I do want to know what you said. Yeah.
What I said was that it's not merely that the world could not make itself, it needed to be created. But that even after it was created, its real significance is not itself, but the Creator's intent in that it should be. That is significant.
So that sums up and essentially what you said.
Yeah, that's the way around. Okay.
Mr. Silverman is sponsoring this Shabbos for Brennan at his home. Somebody remember exactly the address?
It's
we were
in
there
the-
once.
Oh, it's on Maple.
Ay, 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 ya 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 ya